I just got my, I was at the doctor's and got my blood levels checked, and actually my iron is not in a deficiency anymore. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
So,
it is pretty great.
I mean, iron is a metal, and I'm kind of morbid, so the next game we're gonna play is Morbid Metal.
Yeah, the introductions get better and better. I hope, Felix, you are satisfied with how we addressed your game and started this slot. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
I
was a really good introduction. I mean, I haven't heard that before as an introduction.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, fair enough. Yeah.
I'll
Points
take
for
that.
creativity for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's actually true. It's actually a true story, though.
I think he hovered over the leave leave button right now, but you're still here. That's great. Glad to have you, Felix. You brought some B-roll material to look at with us together. Let's start the B-roll, and maybe you can tell us while we look at the first few minutes of it what we can expect from the game.
Of course. Okay, yeah. So first of all, Morbid Metal is a hack and slash roguelike where you can shapeshift between different characters to, slaughter your enemies with really cool combos. You're going to see that in a second. You kind of can press a button like you would in a shooter game where you switch weapons, but instead here you can switch the entire character and basically shapeshift into a different one. And then each character has abilities and you can use them to, create really cool combos that you slaughter your enemies with, right? We're all about, action-packed gameplay and just having fun with some badass action robots and robot samurais that are just kind of destroying other robots, really. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I just wanted to say that it's very fast-paced, and I understand now because backstory here. You gave us B-roll material last year at the Games Made in Germany event. I played the game myself, and I quote. He said, "Let's look at some B-roll because the game should be played by players that are good at the game." To showcase it the best. I understand now why you said that, because what you show here is pretty impressive. Like changing the what is it? Are we a robot ourselves? Changing the appearance, the character mid-air to do another combo is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. We are essentially playing an AI that is kind of like trapped in a machine learning simulation kind of thing where it is kind of iterating and trying to learn the ropes of this combat. And exactly, you just chain abilities to one another. It's very fast paced and it's mechanically not too casual. I mean, you can go you can get some way by just mashing buttons for sure, but at some point you will need to deliberately do certain actions with certain combos in mind to get very far.
So it's aimed
and I'm
at
very sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
It's aimed at the try-hard players, right? So it's like
I wouldn't say so. No, it's not that difficult. I mean, it is a little mechanically challenging at the start, but we did numerous tests with different groups of players, and it's definitely very achievable to get into it after a short while. It's just a little tricky to get used to it at the very beginning, just because you need to be, think about, you have multiple characters and they all have their own abilities. But once you get the hang of it, after I don't know, roughly half an hour, you can really start to see how players are actually deliberately doing that and actually doing what they're supposed to. So it's not that try hard actually. I mean, it's a roguelike after all, so roguelikes are in general not that easy, but it's definitely achievable. And that's kind of what we want as well, right? We don't want to give players the hardest of times, although we definitely need to give them a challenge. But one essential thing that is really important for us is we want players to have fun. And for that, we also want them to, for example, after a long day at work or wherever, go home, have some really cool time with just slaughtering enemies and just forget about whatever is going on and just have a good time. And for that, we definitely don't want to exclude less talented players, for example.
Yeah, I feel very included right now in the player base. You said we want and we try. You developed the game solo for some time, right? Now you say we. What changed?
Exactly. So starting off, when I first worked on the project, that was actually still in university as like a side thing, and that kind of got bigger and bigger. And at some point, especially when I started, posting stuff on social media to see if I'm the only one that is really into this. I mean, at the start, I really just developed the game kind of for myself because that's something I really wanted to have as a game, but that wasn't out there. And that kind of transitioned to becoming a way bigger thing than I originally anticipated. And publishers were contacting me. People wanted to see if there's a possibility to make this a little bigger and actually, form a studio around this. And that's what I did. So I negotiated a publishing deal and formed a studio. And now we are a small studio working on the game, led by me. And it's really cool. It's really cool to go from solo to studio for sure in numerous ways. But it's really cool to have other people that are also passionate about the project, also working on them and have their own thoughts and ideas and ways of how they see the game influence the product in the end. And it's a really fun thing. And I love my job, actually. It's awesome.
How many people are working on the game now, and how is it different for you personally to work on it now?
So it fluctuates because, I mean, we do have a creative core of 8 people, but we, of course, also work with freelancers here and there. So at our peak this year, for example, we were 16 people, but it was only for like 2 to 3 months. But usually it's around 8 to 10 people working on the game.
That's a lot of people working on a game. Like from 1 to 8 to 16 people. I know lots of indie studios who like developed a game with 3 people for 17 years or so. And now you just jumped from 1 to 8 to 16. The game really must have like caught the attention of some really powerful people.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't like going from from 0 to like 300 or something. It was definitely a gradual process, and that was like also very important for everybody involved to not, get too big too quickly, because that is definitely one of the hardest things. I mean, just having more people doesn't necessarily make it so that you're more efficient or just can develop a better game. It's like there's so much management involved. I had to learn this as well, right? When you work on a game alone, you can manage yourself. You can do whatever you want, basically. But as soon as other people are involved, you need to make sure that not only they know what they're supposed to do, but you also need to share your vision with them in a way that is understandable and that you can all go in the same direction in the end. And that was a process for sure. Like the first months of like getting people on board were very, very, there was a very steep learning curve, let's say that. Mistakes were made and things didn't work out right off the bat. And we definitely had to, get bigger as a studio bit by bit. So for the first 6 months, we were like 3 to 4 people, and then gradually increase the headcount with whatever position we needed to fill to get assistance. And that was the only way we could even get to this point where we are now with 8 to 10 people most of the time. Because if we would have just hired 10 people right off the bat, I think this whole thing would not exist anymore, and we would have failed miserably, because nobody would have, especially me, I wouldn't have known what I was doing, right? I went from solo dev to leading a team. That's a whole different thing than actually making a game.
Since that used to be only your vision, I'm interested to hear what someone new on the team implemented in the game that you really like.
Okay, sure. So especially visually, like the start of the team process or team building process was a lot of artists coming on board. So that's where it started. And we, for example, implemented something called the void. You could see that right at the start of the video. It's basically a layer underneath the training simulation that the player is playing in. It's a whole narrative concept that we're going into, but this void is a place that the player returns to frequently throughout the game, not only for story but also for gameplay and additional content. And it's definitely something that was not initiated by me. In the end, it was a team effort that we kind of grew into. So it was well, the idea came from our narrative designer, and we kind of took that and saw, okay, this is a really cool concept and it fits really well into this world. How can we leverage this gameplay-wise as well, right? And because we are all about gameplay, it's really important that we make sure all the mechanics we develop and bring into the game kind of support that core idea that we have with the game. We just want players to have fun and don't get overwhelmed by stuff that kind of withholds them or makes them not enjoy the combat as much as possible. So everything that is going into the game needs to support that, and that also was part of the void, for example, where we took that concept and saw, okay, how can we implement this in the gameplay as well, not only just for our story and the overall world. So yeah, that was, for example, one thing. Yeah.
Talking about adding stuff into the game, what are the next steps in the development process? And maybe after that, when can players get their hands on the game within an early access or demo or stuff like that?
Okay, yeah, good thing that you said early access. We are actually aiming for an early access release. I cannot tell you when exactly, but people should definitely stay tuned for announcements for that in the coming months. But that's currently our next big goal, to have an early access version ready. That's how we are going to go about the project. I think it's really important for us to develop this with the community and get feedback as early as possible. I mean, it's a game that is made for players, right? We want players to have fun, and for that we need their opinion. But our next steps are basically taking what we have here and getting our, content up to speed. I mean, what you see here is just a part of the game. It's the first biome out of many, and we definitely need to amp up, of course, the content for that. We also are currently working on our meta progression, which is definitely a challenge to develop, especially for a roguelike, where you usually have your progression of the course of around 10, 15, maybe 20 hours. You can't really test that right off the bat, right? You can't just play 10 hours and see how it plays out. You need to have a lot of way more methodical design processes than I usually like to work with. I'm definitely usually very iterative and like to see how things actually play out when they play out. So that's something that we're currently definitely challenging ourselves with, but yeah, that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Awesome.
And also, one thing, if you are going to be visiting Dokumi in a couple days, you will actually be able to play this version of the Morbid Metal right there. It's the first time we actually let the public play any part of Morbid Metal, and I'm really excited to see what people think about it. So yeah.
That sounds really exciting to see people actually play the game for the first time. I wish you a lot of luck for that. Is there anything that you definitely want to tell people now that we are at the end of the slot?
I would definitely want people to wishlist the game, of course, and keep an eye on it. I hope the gameplay excites you just as much as it excites me. I haven't actually looked at this gameplay for a while now. After a version is finished, there was a lot of time where other stuff had to be done aside game development, like business development, stuff like that. So it's really, really motivating and getting me back into the hype for my own game, really, watching this footage again. So I hope that did the same thing for people watching the stream right now. And if that is the case, definitely let me know. Let me know what you think about the game. And yeah, be sure to stay tuned for additional news regarding a possible demo or early access in the coming time. So yeah.
Thank you so much for showing us your game. You heard it here. Wishlist the game now. It's Morbid Metal on Steam. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.